Adéa Shabani always dreamed of becoming a Hollywood actress. From a young age, she was drawn to the lights, the cameras, and the fantasy of making it big in the film industry. Her bedroom walls were covered in movie posters, especially of Leonardo DiCaprio, serving as constant reminders of the dream she hoped to chase one day. Born in 1992, Adéa was known as warm, spirited, and full of life. Friends and neighbors often described her as outgoing and kind. One neighbor, Kiersey, remembered how they'd bump into each other in the laundry room. Adéa would chat about anything, even sharing tips on how to do laundry better. That was just her personality, bright, bubbly, and always talking. Before taking the leap to Hollywood, Adéa earned a degree in business administration. She then moved to Dubai and worked at a jewelry store, saving up and preparing for her shot at acting. It wasn't easy, but after 2 years, she finally made the move to Los Angeles. Hollywood was tough, but Adéa never gave up. She enrolled in acting classes and started building her resume. Along the way, she met a man named Chris Spots. To outsiders, their relationship seemed like a typical LA romance, but underneath it all, things weren't as simple. In 2018, Adéa vanished. Friends grew concerned when she stopped showing up to class and wasn't answering her phone. The last person known to have seen her was Chris. Soon, Chris became a person of interest in the investigation. As pressure mounted, he left town. Weeks later, police spotted a stolen Toyota Tacoma speeding down a highway in San Bernardino. A chase began, sirens, flashing lights, engines roaring for miles. When the truck finally stopped, police hoped to bring the driver in for questioning. That driver was Chris, but instead of surrendering, a single shot rang out from inside the truck. Chris had taken his own life. With him gone, so were the answers investigators had hoped to get. A short time later, Adéa's body was found buried in a remote area of Northern California. Her family, heartbroken, was left without closure. The case shocked many. How a bright, hopeful young woman could meet such a dark and sudden end. Adéa had traveled across the world for a dream. She believed in that dream with all her heart. And though her life was tragically cut short, her story continues to echo through the world she hoped to be part of. In 2016, Adéa settled into a small apartment in Los Angeles. At first, the place felt strange and unfamiliar, but she quickly made it her own. She filled the space with fresh flowers and decorated the walls with posters, reminders of the dream she was chasing. That same year, she took her first big step toward that dream by enrolling in the Stella Adler Academy of Acting, a highly respected school in the heart of the city. Adéa approached her studies with full commitment. She rarely missed class and was always eager to improve. Her teachers and classmates noticed how seriously she took the craft. But even with her packed schedule, Adéa made time to stay active on social media. While she wasn't trying to become an influencer, she used her posts to share updates about her life in LA. It helped her stay connected with her loved ones back home, letting them see she was okay and pushing forward. One of her classmates, Christian, remembered her well. He described Adéa as energetic and funny, someone who lit up the room. He knew how dedicated she was to finishing the program and chasing a future in acting. Dropping out was never something she'd consider. She had a vision, and she was determined to follow through. As she worked her way through acting school, Adéa started landing small roles. They weren't huge parts, but they gave her momentum, keeping her inspired and focused on her bigger goals. Around this time, she met a fellow student named Chris Spots. Chris was originally from Colorado and had a background in psychology. He graduated from the University of Northern Colorado in 2009 before turning his attention to acting. Like Adéa, he was relatively new to the scene. He had already appeared in a short film and a couple of documentaries. The two met during class and seemed to click right away. But for reasons that remain unclear, Chris kept their relationship quiet. Even those close to Adéa, her friends, classmates, and teachers, didn't know she was seeing anyone. There may have been a reason Chris kept their relationship hidden. It turned out he was already engaged, to a woman named Mary Elmalak. What's even more surprising is that Adéa knew about Mary. Whether Mary knew about Adéa, though, remains unclear. Despite the complicated situation, Adéa continued seeing Chris. Friends later revealed that the two had a very serious relationship, serious enough that Chris had even proposed to her. So now, Chris had not one, but two fiancés. By early 2018, Adéa was reportedly deep in wedding plans. But that future unraveled on February 26. That Monday morning, Adéa didn't show up to one of her most important acting classes. Students were being cast for new roles, possibly her big break. Her friends instantly knew something was wrong. Adéa wasn't the type to skip class without a reason. She was always responsible, especially when it came to her career. At first, they thought she might be sick. But then things became more worrying. She wasn't posting on social media, and none of her friends could reach her. For someone who updated her life constantly, even sharing small daily moments online, the sudden silence felt eerie. The last known sighting of her was at a coffee shop on Friday, February 23rd. After that, nothing. Her friends didn't wait long before contacting the police. Investigators went straight to her apartment. When they arrived, they noticed the front door was unlocked. That detail alone made them uneasy. But once inside, they didn't find any signs of a struggle. Nothing looked out of place. The apartment was tidy, just as she had left it. But then the detectives noticed something that changed everything. Inside Adéa's apartment, her laptop was still open and running. To investigators, it looked like she had simply stepped out for a short errand and never came back. There were no signs of foul play, but also, no signs of where she went. The next step for detectives was to track her movements. They reviewed the building's surveillance footage. On February 23rd, just before 1 p.m., Adéa appeared in the elevator. She was dressed casually, carrying 2 suitcases, as if she were heading out of town. She wasn't alone. A man stood beside her, face partially hidden under a baseball cap. Though the camera didn't catch a clear view of him, Adéa's friends didn't need it. They recognized him right away. It was Chris Spots, the man she had been seeing. Her fiancé. Things became even more concerning when they checked her phone activity. Shortly after she left the apartment that day, her phone went dark. Turned off completely. Now Chris wasn't just part of her personal life, he was a potential key to finding her. Detectives reached out, and he agreed to speak with them. Chris told investigators that yes, he had picked Adéa up that Friday. His version of events was that they were heading to Northern California to visit his father for the weekend. But he claimed they never made it. According to him, the couple got into a fight during the drive, and in a moment of anger, he kicked her out of the car, leaving her somewhere near Santa Clarita, nearly 25 miles away. This was the last account of anyone seeing Adéa alive. Arguments happen, people lose their temper, words are said, but no disagreement justifies abandoning someone on the side of the road. Especially someone you're supposed to care about. What made things even more troubling was that after kicking Adéa out of the car, Chris never followed up. No text, no call, no check-in to make sure she got home safely. He just left her behind and moved on, as if she no longer mattered. To detectives, this wasn't just odd, it was deeply suspicious. And the more they learned about Chris, the worse it looked. They uncovered his secret engagement to Mary Elmalak, and suddenly this wasn't just a breakup story. It was a tangled web of lies, betrayal, and secrets. Adéa had been involved in a love triangle without much of the world knowing, and the man at the center of it all was now the last known person to see her. Then came another twist. On March 1st, just days after Adéa's disappearance, Chris packed his bags and fled town with Mary in his truck, a Toyota Tacoma. Their destination, Colorado, where Chris's mother lived. This move caught investigators off guard. He hadn't just left Los Angeles quietly, he bolted, like someone trying to disappear. Police were now under pressure to find him. But they didn't have the one thing that mattered most, evidence. Suspicion wasn't enough to make an arrest. They needed proof. Something real. Something that would explain what happened to Adéa and what role Chris had played in it. Meanwhile, back in Macedonia, Adéa's parents were devastated. She had stopped calling after February 23rd. At first, they thought maybe she was busy. But as the silence stretched on, dread crept in. When they were finally told their daughter had gone missing, their world fell apart. And being so far away, they felt powerless, watching from across the globe while their only child vanished without a trace. Adéa's mother wasted no time. The moment she heard her daughter was missing, she boarded the first flight to Los Angeles. Grief clung to her like a shadow, but she didn't let it slow her down. She hit the streets with missing person flyers in hand, determined to find her daughter, alive, safe, somewhere. Volunteers joined her, helping post flyers on telephone poles, store windows, and anywhere a stranger might stop and read. There were ground searches, public alerts, and community pleas. Still, Nothing. As a mother desperate for answers, she offered a $25,000 reward for any information that could lead to Adéa. But not even money could shake loose a clue. The police expanded their search into wooded areas and backroads across California. But it was like Adéa had been swallowed whole by the earth itself. Not a trace, not a single piece of her clothing, bag, or belongings. Just silence. Meanwhile, detectives turned to Adéa's phone, hoping it might contain something, anything, that could shed light on what had happened before she vanished. And it did. Text messages revealed what those closest to her already suspected. Her relationship with Chris was barely hanging on. The passion that once brought them together had burned down to conflict and control. Their dynamic was toxic, constant arguments, emotional tug-of-war, and deep resentment. Adéa may have tolerated the fact that Chris was still engaged to Mary early on, but the weight of that deception was crushing her. And then came the darker revelations. According to her friends, Chris had taken Adéa's phone multiple times, sometimes after fights, other times seemingly just to exert control. She would wake up and find it gone, then track it using her laptop, only to discover it was with him. It wasn't just creepy, it was frightening. Then one friend revealed something terrifying. On Valentine's Day, just days before Adéa vanished, Chris allegedly got so violent during a fight that he tried to suffocate her. The friend said Adéa lost consciousness. But here's the disturbing part. Adéa didn't even remember it. Somehow, when she woke up the next morning, she had no memory of what had happened the night before. Her phone was gone again. Just like before, the relationship that started quietly in an acting class had turned into something dark and dangerous. And now, with Adéa missing, all eyes were on Chris, not just as a former lover, but as a possible threat. Every time Adéa tracked her missing phone, it led her to the same place, Chris. When confronted, he always had a new story ready. After the disturbing Valentine's Day incident, where Adéa reportedly lost consciousness, Chris flat out denied laying a hand on her. Instead, he claimed she had simply passed out at the restaurant where they were celebrating. No explanation, no concern. Just more smoke and mirrors. Maybe he implied she had too much to drink. Maybe he hoped her memory gaps would protect him. Either way, none of it added up. With this mounting evidence and an increasingly twisted timeline, investigators grew even more suspicious of Chris Spots. His tale about driving to Northern California, getting into a fight, and casually abandoning Adéa on the roadside seemed outrageous on its own, but now, knowing he was back in Colorado with his other fiancée, it reeked of something more sinister. To make matters worse, there was no way to verify anything Chris had told them. His only potential alibi was Adéa. And she was missing. Then came the breakthrough. While digging deeper into Chris's past and movements, the detectives discovered something even stranger. The Toyota Tacoma he had taken off in, the one he drove across state lines to Colorado, was reported stolen. No one knew how Chris got possession of it, and he wasn't talking. But for law enforcement, it was finally the thread they needed. On March 1st, a nationwide alert went out for the Toyota Tacoma. Police departments across the country were notified. The objective was clear: find the truck, detain Chris, and search that vehicle for anything that might point to Adéa's whereabouts. For weeks, there was nothing. Then, nearly a month later, on March 22, a patrol car in San Bernardino, California spotted the Toyota Tacoma. The truck Chris had driven. The one tied to a missing woman and a string of unanswered questions. Now, the chase was over. The investigation was about to shift gears. The Toyota Tacoma was finally in sight. Detectives trailed it cautiously through San Bernardino, hearts pounding with anticipation, and then came the confirmation. Behind the wheel was none other than Chris Spots. But he wasn't alone. Someone else was in the passenger seat, though their identity has never been officially released. Still, this was it. They had him. Police made their move, lights flashing, sirens blaring, demanding that Chris pull over. But he didn't. Instead, he floored the gas pedal. What followed was chaos, a full-blown high-speed chase across nearly 60 miles of California freeway, like something out of a movie. But this wasn't entertainment. This was real, dangerous, desperate, and undeniably telling. If Chris had nothing to hide, why run? The pursuit finally ended in Corona, California. Officers managed to corner the truck on the side of the road. They jumped out, weapons drawn, demanding Chris surrender. He'd run out of road, out of excuses. But he wasn't done. In a move so fast it caught everyone off guard, Chris reached into the vehicle, pulled out a firearm, and before officers could react, he pulled the trigger. One shot, one fatal decision. Chris Spots took his own life on the spot. And just like that, the one person who may have known exactly what happened to Adéa vanished forever, taking every answer with him. His sudden, irreversible act didn't just bring an end to his own story, it left Adéa shrouded in even deeper mystery. A family was left with grief. Investigators were left with silence. And the case, already heartbreaking, took on a new, haunting finality. The aftermath of Chris's sudden and violent end left investigators stunned. Why had he done it? Why escalate so drastically when, truthfully, they didn't even have enough to formally charge him with anything, yet? Other than the stolen Toyota Tacoma, there were no warrants, no arrests pending. Detectives simply wanted to talk. They were still piecing everything together. But Chris clearly knew something they didn't. And in his final, irreversible act, he tipped their hand to the very thing he'd tried to hide. As investigators combed through Chris's phone, along with tracking the GPS data from his vehicle, a pattern began to form. Every signal, every ping painted a map, and that map pointed to a remote, isolated region tucked deep into the uplands of the Sierra Nevada mountains. No one goes out there, not unless they have a reason. It's the kind of place only wildlife calls home. But Chris had been there. Detectives zeroed in, and on March 27, just 5 days after Chris ended his own life, they arrived at the location. There, hidden beneath a blanket of disturbed earth, they discovered a shallow grave. Even before they uncovered what was buried, they knew. It was a woman's body. There were tattoos, faint identifiers that hinted at the truth, but protocol demanded confirmation. A day later, through dental records and inked skin, the heartbreaking certainty arrived. It was Adéa Shabani. She was just 25. Her cause of death, blunt force trauma to the head. The news shattered what was left of her family's hope. The vibrant young woman with dreams of acting in Hollywood, whose smile once lit up every room, had been silenced. Hidden, left alone in the wilderness like a secret someone never wanted found. And now, with Chris gone, the full truth, why, how, what really happened in that car, may never be known. All that remained was a family in mourning, a trail of sorrow, and the ache of justice that came just one breath too late. For weeks, Adéa's family clung to the hope that maybe, just maybe, she was still out there somewhere. That she'd show up, confused but alive. That this was all some misunderstanding that would eventually unravel with time. But that hope shattered when her body was found less than a month after she vanished. And what devastates Adéa's loved ones even more is the lingering unknown. They don't know how it happened. They don't know why, and they'll never truly understand the final moments of her life. The only thing they do know is that the man most likely responsible, Chris Spots, is also gone. Adéa's death was officially ruled a homicide, but the timeline remains frustratingly vague. The motive, unclear. The full truth, buried with the man who took his own life. Still, one detail stood out to detectives, one last, haunting red flag. A close friend of Adéa's told police that Adéa had mentioned she was planning a trip with Chris that weekend, to attend his uncle's funeral in Sacramento. She had no reason to question it. It sounded legitimate, but after her disappearance, when investigators spoke with Chris's biological father, he was stunned. According to him, Chris's uncle hadn't died. There was no heart attack. No funeral. The man was alive and well. The lie was chilling, and deliberate. And the deception didn't stop there. Chris arrived at his parents' house on the evening of February 23, alone. No Adéa. His demeanor was shockingly normal, smiling, relaxed, unfazed. But later that night, something changed. He got into a heated argument with his father about abandoning the family. Then, just like that, he vanished again, slipping away into the night to stay at a hotel. This pattern of behavior, escalation followed by disappearance, was eerily familiar. It made detectives ask the hardest questions. Was the trip north just a setup? Had Chris planned to harm Adéa all along? Did something trigger a fight in the car, something that escalated so quickly, so violently, that it ended in tragedy? The working theory was grim. During the drive, a fight erupted. In a moment of rage, Chris may have struck Adéa in the head with a heavy object, killing her. He then buried her in a shallow grave deep in the woods, and carried on with his life as if nothing had happened. But that theory, like everything else in this case, rests on shadows. Because no one really knows what happened in that truck. No one ever will. And that's what hurts most, the silence left in the wake of two lives lost, and the truth that died with them. The truth is, we may never know exactly what happened to Adéa Shabani in those final moments. The only two people who truly knew, Adéa and Chris, are both gone forever. And that, more than anything, is what makes this case so unbearably tragic. Chris Spots will never face a courtroom. He'll never hear a judge read a verdict. He won't spend years behind bars thinking about what he did. And Adéa's family, they'll never get the justice they deserve. They'll never watch her walk a red carpet, star in a film, or see her smile on screen next to her idols. All of her dreams, her entire future, were stolen in a single, brutal moment. And the hardest part is, no one knows why. The Shabani family is left to grieve with no closure. No answers, only questions that will haunt them forever. If there's anything we can take from Adéa's story, it's this. Hold tight to the people you truly love, and more importantly, those you can trust. Because trust isn't a maybe, it's everything. Adéa saw the red flags. She knew something was off with Chris. He was two-timing, lying, manipulating. And sometimes, we tell ourselves we'll be different, the one person who changes them. But the truth is, people who betray others rarely change. And trusting them could cost you everything. So be safe, trust wisely, and walk away from anyone who gives you a reason to question your worth. Adéa didn't get that chance. I wish she had. Thank you for joining me for this heartbreaking case. And to our amazing channel members, Marty Hardy, Justina Fowler, Maggie Govett, and Crystal Milanovsky, thank you so much for your support. You help keep these stories alive, and I appreciate you deeply. If you'd like to become a member and get early access to upcoming videos, hit that join button below or find the link in the description. You can also check out the new True Crime Stories merch link below. If this story moved you, consider watching the next case I covered, it's just as compelling. And don't forget to subscribe, it's free, and it keeps you up to date with all the latest cases we dig into. Before we wrap up, I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to everyone who took the time to watch, listen, and reflect on Adéa Shabani's heartbreaking story. To our loyal subscribers and new viewers alike, your continued support means everything. To the families, survivors, and advocates who continue to seek justice, your courage is not forgotten. The content in this video is based on publicly available information, media reports, and statements from law enforcement and those close to the case. All individuals mentioned are considered innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. This video is created for educational and informational purposes only, with the intent to raise awareness about true crime cases and promote safety and critical thinking. Out of respect for the victims and their families, viewer discretion is advised. Opinions shared in this video are not definitive legal conclusions and should not be interpreted as such. So, stay informed, stay safe, and above all, stay compassionate.